The cold moon of Kestra 7 hung in the void like a pale ghost. Its surface cracked with ice canyons and dusted with frozen methane. Silence ruled there, broken only by the whisper of solar winds scraping against rock. For 3 days, no signal had come from Epsilon Outpost, the small human colony clinging to the moon's southern ridge. No routine check-ins, no supply requests, not even a static burst. That kind of quiet was never good. Aboard the frigate Valkyrie, Captain Luke Dawson stood on the bridge, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the main view screen. He was not a tall man, nor especially imposing, but there was a steadiness in his posture that made others listen. His uniform was worn at the elbows, his boots scuffed from years of shipboard duty. Behind him, Lieutenant Maya Ruiz monitored sensor sweeps, her fingers dancing over the console with practiced ease. At engineering, Ben Carter leaned forward in his chair, chewing on a protein bar and watching the power readouts with half-lidded eyes. "We're entering low orbit," Maya said, her voice calm but edged with tension. "Still no response to hails. Thermal scans show no active reactors, no life signs." Luke nodded. "Drop us to 500 meters. Full stealth mode. And get the shuttle prepped." Ben turned. "You really think we should go down there?" "Could be a trap, could be," Luke replied. "But if there are survivors, they're running out of time. And if it's empty, we need to know why." The Valkyrie slid through the thin upper atmosphere like a shadow. Ice crystals clung to its hull, glinting in the distant light of the system's red dwarf star. Below, the outpost came into view. Rows of modular domes, solar arrays, landing pads. Everything looked intact. No blast marks, no fires, no wreckage, just empty. The shuttle touched down on Pad 3, its thrusters kicking up swirls of frost. Luke stepped out first, pulse rifle slung over his shoulder, breath fogging in the frigid air. Maya followed, scanning with a handheld sensor. Ben brought up the rear, carrying a medkit and a portable comms unit. They moved through the settlement slowly, boots crunching on permafrost. Doors stood open. Meals sat half-eaten on tables. A child's toy, a small metal rover, lay abandoned near a greenhouse dome. The silence pressed in like a weight. "They left in a hurry," Maya murmured, "but not because of an attack. No signs of struggle." Luke knelt beside a console near the central hub. The screen was dark, but he pried open the access panel. Wires had been cut cleanly, not torn. "Someone shut this place down on purpose," he said. "Not invaders. The colonists themselves." Ben checked a storage locker. Food stores are full. Medical supplies untouched. They didn't evacuate for lack of resources. A cold dread settled in Luke's gut. This wasn't abandonment. It was disappearance. Just then, Maya's sensor beeped sharply. She froze. "Captain, we've got incoming." Massive energy signature. Multiple contacts. Emerging from hyperspace, Luke's head snapped up. "How many?" "Too many to count, fleet scale, and they're decelerating fast. Back to the shuttle now," they ran. The Valkyrie's engines roared to life before they even cleared the airlock. As the shuttle docked, alarms blared across the bridge. On the view screen, space itself seemed to tear open. One by one, colossal warships unfolded from the rift, sleek obsidian vessels shaped like scorpions, bristling with weapon ports and energy coils. At their center loomed a command dreadnought twice the size of anything in the Terran fleet. A voice boomed through every comm channel, deep and guttural, translated by the ship's AI into rough English. "Terran vessel, you are surrounded. I am General Vraxis of the Korath Hegemony. I have 1,000,000 soldiers under my command. Surrender your ship and your lives. Resistance is extinction." Maya's hands flew over the controls. Shields at full. Engines spooling. "But we can't fight that fleet, Luke." Luke didn't flinch. He stepped to the comm panel, activated the external broadcast, and spoke in a voice so calm it surprised even himself. "General Vraxis, this is Captain Luke Dawson of the Terran Defense Frigate Valkyrie. Good. I have 1,000,000 targets." For a heartbeat there was silence. Then the Korath ship surged forward. "Evasive pattern Delta," Luke barked. "Ben, reroute all non-essential power to thrusters. Maya, plot a descent into the ice canyons. Use the thermal vents for cover." The Valkyrie banked hard, diving toward the moon's surface as plasma bolts seared the space where it had been. The ship shuddered under near misses, alarms wailing. Ice walls rose on either side as they plunged into a deep fissure, the red glow of geothermal vents pulsing below. "They're still tracking us," Maya said, teeth clenched. "Their scanners are cutting through the interference." "Then we go deeper," Luke said. Find the old mining tunnels, the ones marked on the colony maps. Ben pulled up schematics on his screen. There's a network under Ridge 7, sealed off after a cave-in 10 years ago. But the structural integrity might hold. Might have to, Luke replied, because if we stay in open sky, we're dead. The Valkyrie skimmed over jagged ice spires weaving through narrow chasms as Korath fighters peeled off from the main fleet, diving after them like hunting birds. One got too close. A blast from the Valkyrie's rear turret clipped its wing, sending it spiraling into a cliff face in a shower of fire and black metal. They reached the entrance to the mining tunnel, just as a plasma bolt scorched the ridge above them. Luke guided the ship into the dark maw, engines throttled back to a whisper. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the hum of ancient machinery long since powered down. The Valkyrie settled onto a rusted rail platform, lights off, systems on minimal. Outside, the sky burned with the light of warships. But down here in the belly of the moon there was only silence again. Luke exhaled slowly. We're not getting off this rock without repairs. And we're not surviving without answers. Maya looked at him. What now? Now, he said, pulling his rifle from its rack, we find out what happened to the colonists. Because if the Korath took them, they didn't do it for slaves or territory. They did it for something worse. Ben stood, adjusting his pack. You really think they're still alive? I don't know, Luke admitted. But if they are, they're counting on someone to come looking. And with that, the three of them stepped out into the dark tunnel, flashlights cutting beams through the gloom, the weight of 1,000,000 enemy soldiers pressing down from above. The tunnel stretched ahead like a throat swallowing them whole. Cold seeped through their boots and the air smelled of rust, old oil, and something faintly metallic, like ozone after a storm. Luke led the way, rifle ready, eyes scanning every shadow. Maya followed close behind, her sensor wand humming softly, picking up faint heat traces along the walls. Ben brought up the rear, his breath loud in the stillness, one hand resting on the tool belt at his waist. They walked for nearly an hour, the only sound their footsteps echoing off corroded steel beams and collapsed conveyor belts. Then Maya stopped. There's a power source up ahead, weak but steady and life signs, human. Luke raised a fist. They froze. Ahead, a heavy blast door stood slightly ajar, its hinges bent as if forced open from the inside. Light, flickering yellow, leaked through the gap. Ben whispered, "Could be a trap." "Could be," Luke said. "But it's the only lead we've got." He eased the door open wider. Beyond lay a wide chamber, once a processing hub for ice mining operations. Now it was a makeshift shelter. Cots lined the walls. Makeshift stoves burned low. And in the center, a group of people turned toward them, eyes wide with fear and hope. A woman stepped forward. She was lean with short dark hair and tired eyes, wearing a patched colony medic's jacket. A faded name tag read Briggs. She held a rifle but didn't raise it. "Who are you?" she asked, voice rough but steady. "Captain Luke Dawson, Terran Defense," he said, lowering his weapon slightly. "We came looking for survivors." Nora Briggs studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "We're all that's left. 37 of us." She led them deeper into the complex. The others watched silently. Men and women, a few children huddled near a heater made from scrap metal. Their faces were gaunt but alert. These weren't prisoners. They were fighters who'd chosen to hide rather than run. Over hot broth brewed from nutrient paste, Nora told them what happened. 3 days ago, the Korath arrived without warning. No demands, no negotiations. They landed dropships near the main dome and began rounding up colonists. But they didn't kill anyone. They scanned them, pressed devices to their temples, took blood, recorded voices. They were collecting something, Nora said. Biodata, maybe. One of our engineers overheard a Korath officer say, "Pattern lock achieved," before they dragged him away. Luke exchanged a look with Maya. "They're building a biometric key," she said quietly, "to mimic human access codes. If they get enough samples, they could walk right into Earth's orbital stations." Ben frowned. That's why they left the outpost intact. They didn't want to destroy it. They wanted to study how humans live, move, speak. Nora nodded. "We escaped through the old service tunnels during the chaos. Most didn't make it. But we figured if they were after data, they'd leave the infrastructure alone. And they did." Luke leaned back, mind racing. The Korath weren't just invading. They were preparing to infiltrate. And Earth had no idea. Outside, the distant rumble of engines echoed through the rock. The Korath were still searching. We can't stay here, Luke said. They'll sweep the tunnels eventually. Nora shook her head. We've got nowhere else to go. The surface is crawling with them. Ben looked up suddenly. What about the cryo vents? Everyone turned to him. The geothermal maps, he explained. Kestra 7 has unstable cryovolcanoes, frozen gas pockets under pressure. If we trigger a controlled release near the surface, it'll create an ice storm big enough to blind their sensors for hours. Maya's eyes lit up, and the electromagnetic interference from the eruption would scramble short-range comms. They'd lose coordination. Luke considered it. It was risky. One wrong move and they'd bury themselves under a glacier. But it was better than waiting to be found. Can you do it? He asked Ben. With the Valkyrie's core modulator and a few charges from the mining stockpile? Yeah, but we'll need to place the charges deep in Vent Sector 4. It's unstable. We'll go at night cycle, Luke decided. When their patrols rotate, Nora offered to guide them. She knew the tunnels better than anyone. As they prepared, Luke watched the children sleeping near the heater. He thought of Earth, cities lit at night, ships coming and going from orbit, people living their lives unaware that an enemy was learning how to wear their faces. That night they moved in silence. 6 of them, Luke, Maya, Ben, Nora, and 2 colonists named Eli and Tessa, carried packs of gear through narrow service shafts. The air grew warmer as they descended, the walls slick with condensation. Strange blue fungi glowed faintly in the cracks, casting eerie shadows. They reached Vent Sector 4 just before the Korath patrol drones passed overhead. The chamber was vast, a cavernous dome with a central shaft plunging into darkness. Frost coated the ceiling and the ground trembled slightly with deep subsonic groans. Ben set to work immediately, wiring charges to the modulator. Maya monitored the surface feed from a drone she'd launched earlier. 2 dropships circling the ridge. Ground squads moving east. We've got a window. Nora helped place the last charge. This used to be a methane extraction point, she said. 1 spark down here and it'll blow like a bomb. It's not methane, Ben corrected gently. It's clathrate ice, frozen gas under pressure. We're not blowing it up. We're just letting it breathe. Luke stood at the edge of the shaft, listening to the planet's heartbeat. He felt small but not helpless. Humans had always been outnumbered. What made them dangerous wasn't numbers, it was what they did with what they had. The charges armed. Ben gave a thumbs up. They retreated to a reinforced side tunnel. Detonating in 10, Ben said, fingers hovering over the remote. At 0, the ground shuddered. A deep roar rose from the shaft, followed by a rush of supercooled vapor blasting upward. The walls shook. Ice cracked overhead. Then silence. Maya checked her screen. Surface temp dropping fast. Ice clouds forming. Their scanners are going haywire. Luke allowed himself a small smile. Good, but the victory was short-lived. A new alarm blared from Maya's wrist unit. Korath command ship just sent a priority signal. They're calling in reinforcements and they're targeting this sector for orbital scan. Nora's face paled. They know we're down here. Luke looked at his team, tired, scared, but standing tall. Then we don't give them time to look. We move. Now. They raced back through the tunnels, the distant thunder of the cryostorm masking their footsteps. Behind them, the moon groaned as ice rained from the sky, cloaking Kestra 7 in a white shroud. Above, the Korath fleet circled like wolves, confused but not defeated. Back at the hidden base, the survivors were already packing. Luke knew they couldn't hide forever. But for now, the storm bought them time, and time was all they needed to plan their next move. As he helped a child onto his back, Luke thought again of Raxus's boast. I have 1,000,000 soldiers. He hadn't been wrong. But Luke hadn't been joking either. Every soldier was a target, and humans had always been good at hitting targets. The ice storm raged outside, a swirling white wall that hid the tunnels from the sky. Inside the hidden base, tension hung thick as the survivors packed what little they could carry. Luke stood near the main console, watching Maya work. Her fingers moved fast over the screen, pulling data from the Valkyrie's last satellite bounce. The Korath are confused, she said. Their patrols are blind, but their command ship is running deep scans. They'll find us if we stay. Ben entered, wiping grease from his hands. Engines at 80%. We can fly, but not far. Not with a full fleet waiting. Luke nodded. He'd been thinking. Running wasn't enough. Hiding wasn't enough. They needed to make the Korath look away. And for that, they needed bait. He turned to Nora. You said the Korath took your engineer. Did he have access to fleet comms? He handled colony relay protocols, she replied. Knew the emergency channels. Luke's eyes narrowed. Then they might think he gave them real codes, which means they'll expect a rescue. Maya caught on fast. You want to fake a Terran convoy signal. Exactly, Luke said. We send out a distress call on a priority band. Say a supply fleet got lost near Kestra 7, carrying high-level command staff. Vraxis won't ignore that. He'll want to capture it, not destroy it. Ben whistled low. That's bold. If he sends ships to intercept, he'll pull forces off the moon. And while he's looking up, Maya added, we hit him down here. Luke looked at them all. We don't have weapons to win a fight, but we don't need to. We just need to break their rhythm. They got to work. Ben rigged a comms buoy from spare parts, masking its origin with old Terran Navy encryption. Maya wrote the message, short, panicked, just real enough to sting. This is Freighter Marlin. Under fire. Coordinates Kestra 7 orbit. Requesting immediate aid. She added fake transponder codes, ship logs, even a looping audio clip of a stressed voice. They launched the buoy from a side vent just before the storm cleared. It shot into the sky, broadcasting its lie on a narrow beam aimed at deep space. Then they waited. 2 hours later, the Korath fleet stirred. 3 heavy cruisers broke formation, engines flaring as they jumped to the fake coordinates. Dropships lifted from the surface heading for orbital rendezvous. Vraxis had taken the bait. Ground forces are thinning, Maya reported, eyes locked on her scanner. About a third of their legions are prepping for space deployment. Luke stood. Now's our chance. Ben, are the drones ready? 20 of them, Ben said. Loaded with sonic emitters and low-yield EMPs. They won't kill, but they'll scramble Korath neural links. Their soldiers rely on hive sync comms. Mess with that and they go blind. Nora frowned. You're not planning to fight them head-on, are you? No, Luke said. We're going to make them fight each other. The plan was simple. The drones would fly low using the ice canyons as cover. They'd release pulses at key points, command posts, relay towers, troop clusters. The EMPs would fry short-range links. The sonic bursts would overload their audio receptors, which doubled as balance sensors. Disoriented, the Korath would lose formation, and in their rigid hierarchy, confusion was worse than death. They moved out at dusk cycle. Luke led a small team, Maya, Ben, Nora, and 4 colonists trained in basic combat. They carried no heavy weapons, just sidearms and drone controllers. The Valkyrie stayed hidden, engines cold. The first drone launched from a ridge overlooking a Korath staging area. It zipped silently over snow, then released its pulse. Blue sparks erupted from Korath armor. Soldiers staggered, helmets flashing red. Some fired wildly. Others dropped to their knees, clutching their heads. It worked. One by one, the drones struck. A relay tower near the old landing pad went dark. A squad guarding a comms dish turned on each other, mistaking allies for enemies in their panic. In the chaos, Luke's team slipped between enemy lines, planting small charges on fuel caches and sensor arrays. But Vraxis was no fool. From his command ship, he saw the pattern. The fake convoy had vanished. No wreckage, no signals, just silence. He roared orders in his native tongue, and the fleet shifted. Dropships turned back. Ground commanders tightened ranks. He's pulling back, Maya whispered, crouched behind an ice boulder. He knows it's a trick. Luke watched as Korath squads regrouped with terrifying speed. Then we give him something real to chase. He activated the last drone, a decoy shaped like a human shuttle. It rose from a hidden crevice and flew east, broadcasting a weak Terran ID. Immediately, 2 Korath fighters peeled off and gave chase. Now, Luke said. Ben triggered the final set of charges. Not on the enemy, but on the ice cliffs above their main camp. The explosions were small, but precise. Cracks spread through the glacier. Then, with a groan that shook the ground, a wall of ice collapsed onto the camp, burying vehicles, tents, and half a battalion under tons of frozen rock. Alarms blared across the Korath network. Vraxis's voice cut through the comm channels, furious. "Find them! Burn the tunnels!" Luke didn't wait. "Fall back! Full retreat!" They ran, the ground trembling behind them. Korath patrols swarmed the area, but the storm had returned and the ice fog played tricks on their sensors. By the time the enemy reached the ridge, the humans were gone. Back in the base, the survivors cheered quietly. They'd done it. They'd made 1,000,000 soldiers stumble. But Luke felt no joy. He stood at the tunnel entrance, watching distant fires flicker on the surface. Vraxis would not forget this insult, and next time he wouldn't send a third of his army. He'd send all of it. Maya joined him. "We bought time, maybe a day, maybe 2. Luke nodded. "Then we use it." Ben came up, holding a data pad. "I've been thinking. Their comms run on quantum-entangled channels, almost unhackable. But during a solar flare, the ionosphere gets noisy. If we hit it with a tight frequency burst at the right moment, you could slip a virus in," Maya finished, eyes wide. Luke looked at them both. "What kind of virus?" "One that makes every Korath soldier look like an enemy to his own helmet," Ben said. "Just for a few minutes. But in a 1,000,000-strong army, a few minutes is all it takes." Luke smiled faintly. "Then we don't need more soldiers. We just need better targets." Outside, the storm howled, but deep in the ice, a new plan was already taking shape. And this time, it wouldn't just confuse the Korath. It would break them. The base was quiet now, the kind of quiet that comes before a storm. Everyone knew time was running out. The Korath had doubled their patrols, and their dropships circled the moon like vultures. But inside the ice tunnels, Luke's team worked fast. Ben and Maya huddled over a jury-rigged console, wires spilling from open panels, screens flickering with code. Nora helped the colonists move supplies deeper into the mountain just in case. Ben wiped sweat from his brow. "The solar flare is coming in 6 hours. It's a big one. Castor 7 star is unstable this cycle. Perfect for what we need," Maya nodded, fingers flying. "I've mapped the Korath comms frequency. Their network uses a rotating quantum key, but during high ionization they fall back to a narrow-band backup channel for ground troops. It's slower, but it's a door." Luke stood behind them, arms crossed. "And your virus will fit through that door?" "It's not really a virus," Ben said. "More like a mirror. It tricks their targeting system into thinking every friendly signal is hostile. Their helmets will flash red for every soldier nearby. In their culture, that means immediate threat. They'll react before they think." "Good," Luke said, "because thinking is what they're good at. Reacting is what we can use." Nora came in carrying a tray of hot drinks. "You really think this will work? Turning their own army against itself?" "It only needs to work for 5 minutes," Maya said. "After that, their command ship will override it. But 5 minutes of chaos in a force that size? That's enough to shatter their chain of command." Luke looked at the team. They were tired, hungry, scared. But their eyes were sharp. They believed in the plan because they had to. There was no other way out. Preparations began in earnest. Ben modified the Valkyrie's long-range comm array, turning it into a focused transmitter. Maya wrote the final lines of code, testing it on a captured Korath helmet they'd found near the surface. When she ran the simulation, the helmet's display lit up with red enemy markers. On every test signal, even its own, "It's ready," she said quietly. Outside, the sky darkened as the solar flare built. Auroras danced across the ice, green and violet ribbons of charged particles. The Korath ships shifted position, their shields flaring as radiation levels rose. They knew something was coming. They just didn't know what. Luke gathered everyone in the main chamber. "When we send the signal, stay deep. Don't go near the surface. And if you hear fighting, real fighting, not just noise, don't look. Just run to the Valkyrie. We leave the second the coast is clear." Nora stepped forward. "What if it doesn't work?" Luke met her gaze. "Then we die like everyone else who stood against them. But I don't think it'll fail, because they see us as weak. They don't understand that weakness can be a weapon too." The hours passed slowly. Then the moment came. The flare peaked. The moon's ionosphere crackled with energy. Ben gave a thumbs up. Transmitting now, he pressed a button. A low hum filled the tunnel as the Valkyrie's array sent out a tight beam of data. wrapped in Korath encryption, riding the solar storm like a wave. It slipped past their shields unnoticed and poured into their network. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then chaos. On the surface, Korath soldiers froze. Their helmets flashed red, alarms blared in their ears. To each one, every comrade nearby appeared as an enemy combatant. Instinct took over. Weapons rose. Shots rang out. A squad near the ridge turned on its own leader. Dropships fired on each other mid-air. Command posts erupted in confusion as officers shouted conflicting orders. The rigid order of the hegemony cracked like thin ice. From the tunnel entrance, Luke watched through a scope. It's working, Maya checked her scanner. Their fleet is scrambling. Fraxis is trying to shut it down, but the signal's embedded deep. He can't purge it without rebooting the whole network, and that takes time. Ben grinned. Time we're giving him. Above, the Korath armada writhed like a wounded beast. Ships collided. Ground forces scattered. Some tried to flee. Others fought blindly, caught in a nightmare of their own making. Then, a new signal cut through the noise. Harsh, personal, Vraxis himself. Human. I see your trick. You think fear makes you clever? You are insects playing with fire. Luke keyed the comm. General, you said you had 1 million soldiers. I just gave them something to fight. Enjoy the show. Silence. Then the dreadnought's main cannons powered up, glowing red hot. He's going to bombard the surface, Maya said, voice tight. He'd rather burn the moon than let us win. Then we're leaving, Luke said. Now, alarms blared in the base. Everyone to the Valkyrie, move. The colonists ran, children in arms, packs slung over shoulders. Luke stayed last, covering the rear. As he turned to follow, a blast shook the tunnel. Rock rained down. The entrance collapsed behind him. He sprinted through the shaking corridors, dust choking the air. Ahead, the Valkyrie's ramp was still open. Maya waved him in. Go, go! He leaped aboard just as another explosion rocked the ridge. The ship lifted off, engines roaring, tearing free of the ice just as plasma fire melted the ground where it had stood. From orbit, the view was terrifying and beautiful. Kestra 7 burned below, not from fire but from the madness below. Korath ships broke formation. Some fled into hyperspace. Others drifted dead in space. The 1,000,000-soldier army was no longer an army. It was a mob. Braxis's dreadnought hung alone, dark and furious. A final message came through. This is not over, human. Luke didn't answer. He just watched as the Valkyrie climbed higher, leaving the broken fleet behind. Maya slumped in her chair. We did it. Ben let out a shaky laugh. We really did. Luke looked at the stars ahead. They had won the battle, but the war was still out there, waiting. And somewhere, Earth remained unaware of how close the enemy had come. But for now, they were alive. And that was enough. The Valkyrie drifted in the quiet dark, far from Kestra 7, its hull still warm from the escape. Inside, the air smelled of sweat, burnt wiring, and relief. The colonists slept in shifts, curled up on deck plating or in empty storage bays. Children whispered stories to each other, voices soft with wonder and fear. They were safe, for now. Luke stood on the bridge watching the starfield through the main viewport. No alarms, no enemy signals, just the hum of the ship and the slow blink of distant suns. Maya joined him, holding 2 mugs of reconstituted coffee. She handed him one. Fleet Command just hailed us, she said. They're sending a cruiser to escort us back. They saw the energy spike from the flare, and the Korath fleet breaking apart. Luke took a sip. Did you tell them what happened? Most of it, she said. Left out the part where we tricked 1 million soldiers into shooting each other. Thought that might sound unbelievable, he smiled faintly. It was unbelievable. That's why it worked. Ben came in, rubbing his eyes. Engines holding. We'll make it home without another jump. And the data core is intact. Everything we pulled from the Korath network is saved. Luke nodded. That data was more valuable than any weapon. It showed how the hegemony thought, how they communicated, how they could be broken. Earth would study it for years. 2 days later, the Terran cruiser Aurora met them at the edge of friendly space. Its captain, a stern woman with silver streaks in her hair, boarded the Valkyrie and listened to their report in silence. When Luke finished, she simply said, You've done more in 1 week than our entire intelligence division has in 5 years. Back at Fleet Command, medals were offered, promotions, public honors. Luke turned them all down. He asked only for one thing, A new assignment, deep-range patrol, far from headlines and handshakes. Maya stayed with him. So did Ben. The colonists were settled on a safe world, given new homes, new names, a chance to forget. Nora Briggs sent Luke a message before she left the ship. "You didn't just save us. You showed us we could fight back." He didn't reply. He didn't need to. Weeks passed. The Valkyrie sailed through empty sectors, scanning for drifters, pirates, or signs of Korath scouts. The war wasn't over. Vraxis was still out there, but the hegemony had learned something. Humans were not easy prey. They were unpredictable, dangerous in small numbers, and they never ran out of ideas. One evening, as the ship coasted past a nebula glowing soft blue, Maya found Luke on the observation deck. He was staring at the stars, hands in his pockets. "Why did you say it?" she asked. "Back on Kestra 7. When Vraxis said he had 1,000,000 soldiers and you said you had 1,000,000 targets." Luke was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Because fear only works if you let it count your enemies. We don't count enemies. We count chances. Every one of them is a chance to win." Maya nodded. She understood. That was the human way. Not strength. Not numbers. Just stubborn hope wrapped in cleverness. Later, Ben called them to the bridge. A faint signal had pinged on long-range scan. Not Korath, not Terran. Unknown origin. Weak but repeating. A distress call, maybe. Or a trap. Luke stood. "Set course. Full stealth." Maya raised an eyebrow. "You really think we should check it out? After everything?" He looked at her, then at Ben, then at the endless dark ahead. "Someone might be counting on us." The Valkyrie turned, engines humming softly, and vanished into the starfield. No fanfare, no promises. Just a small ship, a small crew, and the quiet belief that even in a universe full of giants, the smallest spark could start a fire. And somewhere, far behind them, the stars kept watch.